We read books for what's inside them, but it is often the cover art that gets us excited to pick up a book, to read the blurb, to crack the pages, find out more about the author, maybe check out the Goodreads score. What's your formula for picking out a new book? I think cover art is immensely important, and no other genre, in my opinion, has better cover art historically than science fiction. And in this video, I'm going to talk about 10 of my favorite, right off the shelves, science fiction vintage covers, but I'm going to juxtapose it with 10 modern covers because I think there's a stark difference. There's a shift in the landscape of art. Which are better, modern or vintage? It's for you to decide, I suppose. Vintage covers had certain freedom of expression that maybe have been lost, but there's still many incredible modern covers as well. First off, I want to say thank you to Ben from Grammaticus Books for putting together this video. This is kind of a response to his video where he talked about 10 of his favorite covers, but I need to thank Richard from Vintage SF because it's his video that I watched originally where he talked about his 10 vintage covers. I'll link both down below. Now, they did have a few restrictions on this video that I'm not necessarily going to adhere to. I think an artist could only show up once. I'm just showing you some of my favorite books that I pulled off the shelf. We're gonna start out with a beautiful cover, a Dillon cover, Leo and Diane Dillon, fantastic artists. And this is Joan D. Vinge's The Snow Queen, a book I picked up not too long ago. I have not read it yet, but this cover I find mesmerizing. This is a book club first edition, and this cover really sparks something. And it's soft, it's light, it's mellow, but it's atmospheric. It's got a feel to it, a hint of fantasy. It's a beautiful cover, really intriguing. I really love this. Moving right along, Stanisław Lem, Return from the Stars. Powrót z Gwiazd is the Polish title. Return from the Stars. This, I think, was printed in the 80s. What's interesting about this cover is the perspective. It seems like the astronaut, like we're looking down on him. It's a story of an astronaut who comes back from a trip that took him about 10 years, but over, I believe, 120 years have passed on Earth, and the Earth has been changed. I think this book is very interesting because of how the Earth has changed. And I think we're seeing some of those things in our lives right now, some of the things that Lem talked about. It's a good one. Not one of my favorite Lems, but definitely a worthwhile read. And the cover art I find incredible because of the color choices, because of the perspective, and also the font in this case, I think is interesting. Font is often an overlooked part, but I think, unbeknownst to perhaps me or you, we are influenced by the font. And in this case, the font, I think, makes this even more dynamic. You're kind of drawn in. A beautiful, beautiful cover by Stanisław Lem. Vintage covers are amazing. Here's Isaac Asimov, The End of Eternity cover. Now, this one is fabulous. It's a book that I read. It's a book that I enjoyed. Asimov, am I reigniting my love for Asimov? Gods Themselves was such a great read, and this was a good one as well. And this cover just has this hard science fiction edge to it, and the color choices on this book are just incredible. I really enjoyed this one. I really love it. I think this is a great example also of that freedom of expression that we talked about earlier. Here's a Daw, Hard to be a God. Strugatsky brothers, right? Arkady and Boris Strugatsky. This is a cover that I enjoy. It's got a totally different feel to it. Makes me think of King Kong, obviously, but an interesting cover, intriguing cover. I love, again, everything about it, from the font to the symbolism that this cover offers. Another beautiful cover. Are we going back to Lem? I had to. Lem is gonna come up a few times in this video, and here we have The Invincible. Fantastic book. A book I think I spoke with Richard for Vintage SM on his channel. We talked about this book. He really enjoyed it, as did I. Fantastic story. And this cover, the simplicity of it, I think this is one of my favorite covers of all time. It says a lot about what the story is. Yeah, just an amazing, amazing cover. An ace. This is the type of cover I would not mind having as a poster over my bed. And not necessarily when I was a kid. I'm talking right now. Let's dig a little deeper. Let's see what we have here. Book Club Edition, Chronicles of Amber, Volume 1. Roger Zelazny. Here we have one of the most recognizable cover artists in all of science fiction and fantasy, Boris Vallejo. And I just love the dynamic nature of this cover, the expressive quality. This reminds me of some of the comic books I read as a kid. A lot of nostalgia when it comes to this type of artwork. This is a classic. This is an amazing cover. This really represents an era. And Boris is obviously one of the most famous cover artists of his time. And I'm so happy to have this book. Let's see what else we've got. Gateway by Frederick Pohl. Now here is a cover that I also wrote. And again, another Boris cover. So I apologize for not adhering to the rules, but I could not pass this one up. First of all, I just read the book recently and I loved it. I actually didn't read this copy because I didn't want to put any extra wear and tear on it. But this Frederick Pohl book was a lot of fun to read, and this cover is just incredible. I love the way the spaceships are drawn here. I think this is such, again, a representation of a certain time, of a certain freedom that I think perhaps we've lost a little bit. This was the age of exploration, the age of possibilities, and these ships are just so much fun. Is this a first edition? It's a book club edition. I don't remember if it's a first. I think it's a first edition, first print. It doesn't say. In any case, I'm so happy to have this Boris Vallejo cover as well. Here's another one that is incredible in my opinion. Way Station by Clifford D. Seamack. And this unusual cover, I think it's fantastic. There's just something about it that is difficult for me to even put a finger on. What is it that I enjoy about this art? We talked about Boris Vallejo. That's easy to tell. You know, there's the action, the vividness of those covers. This is different. This has more impressionist kind of quality to it, but I think it's beautiful between the color scheme, the font, and what's going on the page. Fantastic. The book was good as well. I enjoyed it. I thought I would like it a little bit more. I think I like City more, the City more than Way Station for some reason. But this is such a beautiful cover, a McFadden edition. I love it so much. I love it so much. Let's talk about something with a bit of a different feel to it. And here we have Babel 17, right? The masterpieces of science fiction. And I'll show you on the close-up some of the artwork inside. But this cover, a completely different feel to it, of course, different reasons for loving this, but this is one that I treasure as well. The human kind of coming out of the space-time continuum is kind of what I'm sensing here, is just spectacular. The idea here for this cover art is stunning. Another one, Stanisław Lem, Memoirs of Space Traveler. This one is just a fun, silly, absurdist cover that really gives us an idea of what the book might be like inside. There's humor in this book, fantastic stories. And also we do have inside, we have some of the artwork by Stanisław Lem. So this is what makes this book special. And that's why I wanted to show it to you. And here's the last one of the vintage. This is 1976, The Mote in God's Eye. And I love this cover because, again, the simplicity, the uneasiness that you get from looking into the eye of the alien as it's looking out of the corner of its green eye, looking at the whole planet here. I think this is very interesting, a different feel. Once again, I think I have a nice variety of book covers here when it comes to the vintage stuff. I think we're just going to keep going. Let's talk about modern. And my favorite modern cover, I think, that I own has to be this Stanisław Lem's Solaris. Solaris is one of my all-time favorite books. And this cover, I think, is simply spectacular. Matt Murphy is the artist who did the cover and also all the interior artwork. Some beautiful, beautiful artwork. Signed edition by Matt Murphy here. This is spectacular. I think this is modern science fiction at its science fiction cover at its best. Evocative, a lot of imagination as well. Beautiful color scheme, just a stunning book. The way it's also finished, the quality of the pages, incredible book. What else do we have here? On the Origin of Species and Other Stories is a book that knocked my socks off. One of my favorite books of the year, Bo Young Kim, and this cover with the android, the AI, the machine, looking, kind of peeking at us, kind of coming out of the bottom of this cover, is a perfect example of modern art done right. This one, I think, is spectacular. I love this cover. When I saw this book and I picked up the cover, I had no clue who Bo Young Kim was. But this cover drew me in and I walked out with the book, started reading it and loved it. Book of short stories, cover art in this case, spectacular. I was thinking I have a nice collection at this point of Ian M. Banks's culture novels. I wanted to show one. I didn't know which one. I had some better books overall, but this cover I find mesmerizing. I think this is beautiful. This is from the State of the Art. So it's a collection of short stories actually, with the titular story taking place in the culture universe, but not all of them do. And this cover art, I think, is incredible. Evokes something almost breathtaking as I look at this. The human standing on the edge of this platform from an orbital with a ship approaching. I don't even know. Incredible stuff. And this cover art to me captures that better than any other that I have. So that's why I showed it to you. Here's a different take on a cover art that I appreciate, that I enjoy. The Mountain and the Sea by Ray Naylor is a book that I read, that I enjoyed. We have signs there. I just think this is stunning in a different way, but just as beautiful as some of the other covers. We have the octopus, we have the 8 arms. Each one has different symbols that I don't want to get into any spoilers. Just a beautiful book. Blue is probably my favorite color, so that doesn't hurt either. Stunning, stunning. Now here's one that had me thinking if I should include it or not. Dukaj, Starość Askolota. It's a Polish book. I believe it's been translated into English. I forget the English title. I think it's Hardware Dreams, actually. I'll have to double check on that. But this cover art is interesting because I don't really know what I'm looking at when I'm looking at this cover. And I haven't read the book yet. I picked this up on my recent trip to Poland. It's got good reviews. It's got beautiful art on the inside as well. But this cover, when I was holding it in my hand, I just could not let go. It had to come back with me. Let me know if you appreciate this kind of art. I think it's unique. It almost kind of gives me vibes of a fallen world, fallen earth, apocalypse, but not in an obvious way. Here's one of my all-time favorite covers. Maybe I'm actually liking the modern stuff quite a bit, because this Dan Simmons, Hyperion, one of my all-time favorite books, period. And this Polish cover is my favorite Hyperion cover. Bridger from Library Ladder mentioned that he loves this Polish cover also, but prefers the US version, which I love as well. Maybe if I had first edition signed by Dan Simmons like he does, that would be the one I would be showing you. But in any case, I digress. This cover, I think, is more mature. This was drawn by a famous Polish artist. Dark Crayon is his name, or that's what he goes by anyway. Dark Crayon. Interesting, right? And his cover art I find spectacular. Again, evocative, definitely kind of heavy metal feel to it, darkness, deep shadows. I love it. This is Shrike to me done right. This is the scary Shrike. Incredible stuff. Beautiful book too. What else do we have? What else do we have? We've got a Wayland cover. Another beautiful cover, evocative, simple, clean. Dark Tower is one of my all-time, probably my favorite. Well, I have to think about that. But one of my favorite series for sure, straddling genres between science fiction, fantasy, more fantasy than science fiction, horror at times, just everything in this book. Western vibes. And this is the last book, The Dark Tower, book 7. Fantastic ending to the story. A genius ending to the story, in fact. And this cover is incredible. Beautiful art. Michael Wayland. I got the rose. This stands in a proud place in my home. This book is just incredible. All right, next, Gary Rudell, cover of Dan Simmons' Olympus. Gary Rudell, of course, is famous for his work on Dan Simmons' Hyperion, the American versions. But this one also is fantastic. I didn't want to go with another Hyperion book, so I picked this one. First edition, beautiful book. I have not read it yet. I'm looking forward to reading this at this point. Evocative image with the soldier overlooking the city. Looks like a bridge has been destroyed on the cover. So I really like this kind of cover. Tells most likely a moment from a story. So it's a different approach to a book cover for sure. Here I can imagine this is one of the moments that I'm gonna read once I pick up the book. All right. Down to 2. David Mitchell, Cloud Atlas. I think this is beautiful cover, but it's not the cover. It's not the dust jacket that I wanted to show you. It's what's on the inside. This with the humans fading coming out of the other. This wraparound cover of Cloud Atlas is incredible. I love this. I think this is, again, modern cover done right. This has imagination. This uses the latest technologies that we have at our disposal. This is a beautiful cover. This was, I believe, the 20th edition. Is this a 20th edition? Yeah, 20th anniversary edition, signed by the author. Fantastic. Fantastic. I really love this cover. And last but not least, I wanted to highlight this one because I just finished this book not too long ago. Dune Messiah. I think Dune has had so many different covers. Obviously, it's been in print for a long time, always reissued. But these are just lovely. They're stunning. And I think out of the 3 books that I have in this collection, this cover is my favorite. I think this really tells a story. It tells a story of a shift within Paul Atreides very well. An ominous figure here sitting on a throne. I think this is beautiful, stunning, with a halo. He's becoming a deity essentially here. This is beautiful. And also inside here, just amazing cover art. I'm sorry, amazing art throughout this book. Art in science fiction books is something that forever in my mind will be linked. The reading experience plus the tactile feel of actual books is the reason why I cannot go to Kindle. I can't read on an e-reader. And I also realized that listening to books on Audible or whatever is just not for me. My mind wanders, but also I'm missing the amazing art that you can only get when you pick up the actual book. So please let me know which of these covers you prefer. Do you like vintage stuff or do you prefer the modern take on science fiction covers? I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what some of your favorite covers are. That's it. Quick video. I love these books. Thanks for watching.